Hello. So my name is Kelly. This is yet another test framework. I'm going to fly through these slides just to get to the good stuff at the end. I'm on the CLI team. We're at CrowdStrike in London. We're hiring. What did CrowdStrike want in this case? We're out to solve our end-to-end testing woes. We had a lot of wants. Be real as possible. No in-browser injection techniques like Cypress were going to work for us. Had to be as real as a user as possible. Browser agnostic, so the new stuff like Cypress and Puppeteer wasn't really going to work for us. We wanted lots of browser support. Flexible, powerful enterprise. We're testing a massive application. A getting started guide, testing a to-do app isn't quite going to work for us. So the old favorite WebDriver is what we chose, all said and done. The trade-off of how easy it is to get set up for like your first test versus all the things you want out of a test framework, it just seemed like the right choice. Our requirements, almost too many to list. So I'm on the CLI team. Of course, I'm going to build a CLI. But our tests aren't necessarily going to be run by only us. We have other teams that are going to be running our tests. They're not going to be cloning our source or anything like that. They need a CLI to run the test. They're going to be testing like changes to permissions aren't going to screw up the whole website. So they run our test suite like this using a CLI. Test filtering, regex support for selecting subsets. Tagging for grouping tests. You want to tag some as slow, fast, smoke, kind of like decorators. Role support, logging in and out, role switching. It needs to know about this. It'll come later. Environment support, test different URLs. Target support, this can be whatever you want. It's just sent down to your test suite to do what you want with. We use a target for mock data. I also have experimented with, you need to test pull requests a little different than master. So you can have a target based on that. Feature flags. You may gradually roll out changes and your tests are different based on environment because of feature flags. And so instead of having if env equals prod or if env does not equal prod, you can gate them on feature flags. And that way, when your feature flags roll out, you don't need to mess with any of your tests. They just adapt. I'll show off FalTest, what I created at CrowdStrike, to solve all of our problems in this space, and you could use it if you want to. It's open source. An example of the browser support. Choose a browser. Choose as many browsers as you want to run. Regex filters on the test names. Pretty self-explanatory. Tagging system, it's kind of like a Twitter style, where you can tag all of your tests. It's using Mocha style, which is not class-based, so decorators wouldn't quite work here. So it's kind of faking decorators in that sense. You can see like you have not operations 2 on the bottom, so you'd target the fast one in that case. Roles, which is just another Mocha style helper like it and describe, and it lets you block tests on the users that can run it. Self-explanatory. Targets, another one I just went over. You can target different types of things. It's just a convenience to be passed down to do what you want with. And these are what the feature flag test looks like. You can see this one. You give it a name and then you say, this test runs when feature 1 is on and feature 2 is off. A lot more optional stuff. Watch the video later to read it all. Demo time. All right, so this is just the test suite, an example from the test suite of FalTest. And I'm going to start running it. And I just made a simple little code pen. Simulates a login flow. And we're going to log in. Oh, I'm supposed to be stepping. There we go. Open, it's using page objects. And then here's the little block. Feature flags are up to you. It's an implementation detail. And so this is just window.featureFlags. I'm going to grab them. And then there's my feature flags. And then some of the tests here, it just works. Member section is shown. Here are some of my featured tests. This one runs when finished feature is on. in progress feature, you want to test that. So this is running in our fake dev environment right now. This one, not in progress. So this runs on our prod environment, and it's prevent leaking in progress stuff to production. You want to test against that too. And so I'll just press play a few more times. It's running down to the bottom. You can see the browser flickering every time because it's rebooting every time. And that's just to get a safe test to log in every time. One more time. I'll turn these off. And then I'm going to switch over to my CLI stuff, and I'll turn on this. Now, since it knows about logging in and out and what roles are, it's going to not log out between each test. No more browser refreshing and like that. It's used the same session from the previous. So with flags like that, you can optimize your test with a little bit of risk of bleeding session. I'll skip that one. Browser Firefox. I can switch to dev. Prod is the default in this case, and you'll notice that the feature flag tests are different. It'll be skipped down at the bottom for that in progress one on dev. Anyways, yeah, your different feature flags are different for that environment. Next one, I'm going to switch over to. Okay, so here's a recording. This runs on Ember Clear, my coworker's website, and it's using two browsers, and so communication between them. So it logs in with different users on each of them, and talks to each other. And so that's a little hard to do in like an Ember test suite. You need two different browsers, each with different sessions, logging in differently, and the test code is actually really small and pretty concise. And then my last one was, I'll just play a little snippet from my last talk on this. And this is actually a full featured test. This is our testing our own application at CrowdStrike. And so it's going to prod with test user, test data. Yeah, it's plain. Okay. So test user, a configuration tag, a filter, just because I want to run it on this single test and not everything else. And so this is that CLI is what I was showing you. That's what other teams at our company would run. It's on our internal NPM. They'd run it, install it, and just run it and test their permutations to the permission sets we have in the UI to make sure they didn't regress any of the functionality of our suite. And there it worked. That is the end. That's the link. It's a pretty infant project. To do is I want to share page objects between Ember and this project. Right now they're separate, and then expand on the READMEs. If you want to try it out, let me know. Thank you.